Good afternoon. Just a moment or so before the time that we are due to go live. So just going to wait for attendees to pop in. I can see that some of us are tuning in. By all means, drop your name or your school or your department or subject specialty into the comments box. Let me know who's there. Also, do please give a thumbs up or a yes in the comments, just to show that you can hear me loud and clear. Last thing I want is to be sat here for you on a Friday afternoon not being able to hear me. So do please tell me who you are, where you're from, and that you can hear. We'll just give it a moment or two, see what the viewer numbers are like before I dive into this afternoon's showcase of Seneca. A big thank you to those who are logging in. I can imagine that this is a precious time for you guys. You're either back into the swing with your year 7s and 11s, or maybe you've got a final day of inset before the mad rush next week. So thank you so much for joining me this afternoon to have an overview of Seneca learning and how we can improve or indeed adapt and enhance the learning experience for your pupils. I'm not going to make any assumptions today as to sort of what your use case is, or indeed what your experience with Seneca has been to date. So bear with me, because what I'm going to be trying to do is do that end-to-end review so that we can look at how do you sign up to Seneca, how do you create your first or indeed many classes, depending on your role within the school. How can you look at and revise that content that's appropriate for your pupils? How do you then use that to lead into assignments or structured and tailored interventions for your pupils? How do you share it, report on it? And then we'll also take a view from the other perspective, from a pupil's perspective, to have a look at what does do for them. What is that flow? What is that personalized learning journey that we're proud to be able to offer to your pupils? So really try and do an all-encompassing demonstration this afternoon. I'm going to keep myself honest with the timings, because I'm sure we've all got other things that we would want to be disappearing for at past. So I'm going to dive straight on in. At any point, I will say, do please drop any questions that you have into the comment box. It might be that it's something that I will follow up and will be in the natural flow. So don't worry if I'm not immediately asking it. If it's a particularly pertinent question, what I might do is drag that question across onto the live view so that we can share it with the audience and discuss in more depth. One final point, I will be sharing my contact details, my email address, at the end of this presentation, because what I'd love to do is continue that dialogue on a one-to-one basis. So if you do have any follow-up questions, you want to learn more about some of those specific features within the open platform, or whether you want to discuss what Seneca Premium can do for you, your school, and your pupils, you'll be able to come straight through to myself. So we are looking at that login screen. So all I've done here is I've just done a search from Google, Seneca Learning. Don't have an account at the moment. It might be that you've logged in before or not. So you would sign up, and you can either sign up with your email, or ideally what we're wanting to be doing is looking for that single sign-on. So predominantly you're going to be a Microsoft, so a Teams school, or potentially a Google Classroom school. And we would always recommend that for teachers and pupils, that's the route to entry for Seneca, because it does away with that need for multiple passwords to juggle. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to go in with my Google account. Now I'm sharing a particular window, so you can't see the pop-up, but you'll be used to it as navigating the internet and using multiple accounts. It's asking me to select which of my Google accounts I want to log in with. And here we go. This is me. This is Mr. Clark Smith. And this is my classroom environment. So as you can see here, I've got one class open at the moment. And that's because I've done a little bit of a clear up. It's September. I've got a new cohort coming through. And so what I've done is I've actually gone through and I've archived last year's classes. So you can see here where I had previous cohorts. But they're still there. Do not fear. I've not thrown out any of that data. So from September, you can collect all that rich pupil data, and at the end of the year, you can archive that class and you can still see the insight and the responses to all of those assignments, all of that coursework, and you can report on it still. We know that there's always going to be that moment, be it a pupil progress meeting or indeed potentially your own review session with heads of department or heads of school, where you will be asked to deliver that pupil insight and progress data. So you can always come back to this. And you can indeed unarchive the class. So it might be that you have a select focus group that you're working for periodic interventions. You can bring that classroom forwards and backwards into play as you see fit, so as you're not cluttering your work profile. So I'll just click back on classes here to show me what my opening board looks like. And for the purposes of the run through, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how we create an additional class. So I'm going to open up and I'm going to call this French September 2021 GCSE. So don't be put off going for something that's out of your subject domain. We will look at a range of course content today just to demonstrate the breadth of content that we have. So I've created that class. You can see up here we've got a unique class identifier. I'll touch on that in a moment. That's how you would allocate pupils to it and identify it within the Seneca platform. Always really nice and handy, real visual aid to see what steps you need to progress to actually getting to our content, cutting it into bite-sized and manageable assignments, allocating it to pupils, and then we'll have a look at the reporting. So my first point of action is to load up some course content to my class. I've helpfully named it French September 21 GCSE, so that's what I'm going to look for. So I've clicked in case I went too quickly there, I've clicked on this tile here, add course, or indeed you can use the blue call to action here. I'm adding a course. And as you can see, we have a weight of valuable content across the platform. So you'll see there is a sort of a slight divide. We've got a lot of content available as a free to use. So absolutely anybody, pupil or teacher can log in and access relevant, up-to-date and award-winning content to sort of add to what you're provisioning in the classroom. But how do you filter this through? Because you could be spending hours delving through this content. We've got a free-form search. So I can search by French, but you can also progress through the content using a range of detailed drop-downs. So I'm going to look to make my search a little bit more pointed. So I'm going for GCSE. I'm going to comb through the subjects to French. And I'm also interested in understanding which exam board content there is, because all of our course content creation is from lead examiners or lead professionals within that domain. So it is tailored specifically to your requirements and up to date on the latest curriculum needs. So I'm going to look through here in my school at AQA. So that has now drilled down that weight of content down to those 4 key course contents. And I'm going to add these to my class. So I'm going to go for the AQA GCSE. I'm going to do a foundation vocab because I might pull that in for some of those lower abilities as a catch-up post-summer. And I'm going to use some higher vocab to challenge and stretch my gifted and talented pupils. So I'm going to add those 3 courses to my class. We're now back at that main view. You can see in this course tile, I've got 3 courses allocated. Before I move on to assignments, just looking through, not seeing any questions as yet. If there is anything that I'm maybe going a little bit too quickly on, or you want to just take a moment to delve into one of the aspects, whether it's navigating the platform or indeed any question you have, don't forget, drop it in the comments. So I've got my 3 courses. So you can see those as 3 tiles within my library. And I'm going to go to assignments. And I'm going to create one because I've got nothing here, no upcoming assignments. I'm going to create an assignment. So you can see here, so somewhat grayed out. Those are my 3 courses. and I am going to go for the GCSE course. So this is going to be a whole class assignment. And what you'll see in front now in this rotation of panels, these are all the modules within that unit, the AQA GCSE unit. So these are all the key elements of course content that pupils would be expected to navigate and master through the semesters. And what I'm going to do, it doesn't matter which order you approach these in, so you don't have to follow in a chronological or numerical order. It might be that we're actually partway through autumn term and we're already looking at social issues. You can come in and select one of these topics. But for the purposes of demonstration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just come in and say it's week 1. What I want to do is demonstrate to the pupils a degree of understanding and progress to mastery on these first 4 topics. Now, for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you may have noticed as I was selecting and deselecting these topics, up at the top of the screen, you can see what the predicted time involvement would be for the pupils undertaking that coursework. So for each of these units, there is an estimation as to what that weight of effort would be for your pupils. So I'm looking at a 20-minute session, short, sharp, to bring them up to speed and as an introduction to GCSE homework. So those are the 4, but you don't want to send it out blind. At the moment, all we've known is that we've clicked on a course that says it's AQA GCSE. What is it that I'm actually sending to my pupils? So I'm going to click on Describing Yourself, Preview, and this will open up the entirety of that unit, that 1.1.1 Describing Yourself unit that a pupil would work through. Now, typically for our units, they will start with this carousel of content. In this case, it's key vocabulary, which the pupil would rotate through, spending time to read and digest the content before moving down into a series of question styles. You'll see as well, often we use a lot of visual prompts. Some of that will be for dual coding purposes. Some of that is for that continual engagement, that humor, to make that learning fun and to keep them enticed. So we'll see here, we've got a multiple choice. How do you say eyes? And then we're looking at a missing word round. And again, another missing word, clicking the wrong word. So within this sentence, the student would have to identify within context, what is the wrong word? Again, a different format of missing word. And at any point, you can always click on the feedback and you can put your feedback here, and that will come straight into us, the team at Seneca. So it might be that you're interested to understand how that content is applicable, or indeed it might be that you've got some ideas on how that unit could be enhanced. You can come through with that feedback directly to us. So you can scan it. I've scanned that, and that looks good for an initial session. So I'm going to just close that window, and I'm going to hit Assign. Assigning this content now, I'm going to name this Week 1 homework. You'll notice that the start date for homework is always the present day. And like me, I mean, I would spend my Sundays, admittedly, much younger year group, but Key Stage 2, that would be it. It would be that sort of that panic, that deflated moment at the weekend and thinking about what's coming up the week ahead. If we were logging on Sunday, yes, it would be assigned to Sunday, but you can ascribe this homework to any date in the future. So I'm going to actually say that it's after school hours on Friday, so there's no point setting it now. I'm going to set it on Monday, and I'm going to request that it is returned to me, or those elements are completed by the following Monday. We recommend that teachers get into a cadence of assigning, whether it's full units or partial units, every week or every fortnight, just to keep that momentum going, keep that engagement, and keep the content rich and relevant to parallel and sustain and support what you're delivering within the classroom. So I'm going to create, and that has then brought that unit together. We've got a unique URL there, which you can share directly to your pupils. Now, if you're a Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams user, you can share that. Simply one click will take you through into your Google Classroom or your Teams account, and you can distribute that homework directly to the students there. You can email it out, or something that I've seen done to good effect is actually, rather than it being a homework opportunity, you can copy that URL. I'm going to open a browser. So it might be actually you're looking for an AFL opportunity, returning to school. Let's have a whole class verbal opportunity to share our understanding. You would be able to open this assignment within the classroom. Now, I've assigned this for Monday, so the demonstration falls slightly foul here, but you'd be able to bring this up onto your interactive board and actually do it as a whole class session, just to get a sort of a sense of where your pupils are returning to school. But in this instance, I'm going to close that off. Once you've sent it either via email or Teams and Google Classroom, this is your insights here on your assignments tab. This tells you when's the due date, and then you've got these key metrics. How many pupils have completed the work so far? How many are late? How many incompletes? And as the results roll in, along the side here, this will start to be populated with an average class score for each unit. Once you have pupils invited, you'll see the data down here. In a moment, I'll drop into a separate demonstration platform, which will have some raw data in there to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to now move across in a moment to the student platform so that we can look at what is that flow for a pupil? What is the question type like? What is the feel? And how do we keep pupils engaged with their external and additional learning? Before I make that move, again, we've got a quiet bunch this afternoon. Do please pop any questions that you have in that comments box. Really want to make sure you're getting the most out of this afternoon's session. And as is always the case, if you've got a question on your mind, there will be somebody else who I'm sure will be thinking the same. So pop that question out there. Don't be shy. Our student platform. Here we go. So as a pupil, this is what you would see. So you've got a full page here with all sorts of information nicely tailored into tiles. Now, one thing that is key to understand is that Seneca is an open platform. What we want is a democratic and authentic means of children being able to enhance their understanding of the world, to really be able to learn at a pace that suits them and in a manner that boosts their overall performance and success within the academic structure. So all of our course content is available. So it's not prescriptive. So you may be signing up as head of physics, but that your pupils will be able to explore the whole weight of our information. So they are free to learn. But that's not to say that you as class teacher can't mandate, actually, listen, guys, within this half term, we're focusing on this unit. I do not want you to progress further because I want to keep it constrained. You're absolutely within your rights to say as such. And here, the pupil will see those courses that they have recently completed. And they can delve back in. So we can look at this one. This pupil has been doing a foundation GCSE biology module. So we can see exactly this one. So we can go through, and if I wanted to, I could start completing work based on cell types, cell control, genetics, etc. As I come through in this particular option here, I don't have any assignments set, but if you bear with me, I'm just going to show a separate tool. This is a different pupil, and there's a lot of information here. So it's just going to take a moment, particularly as I'm screen sharing. Here we go. This is the crucial element here. What we don't want to do is give you the power to assign homework, but then it just to be lost in the ether. So front and center here, our pupils are able to see exactly which is their most pressing piece of homework. So you'll see that this one is highlighted because the due date is 7th of September. And we can see from here by opening it up that this pupil has got some sections that are incomplete and some sections that absolutely need some reworking. So they can come back to that. I'm going to continue. And I can see here exactly where I will need to be focusing my energies. So if I was this pupil, I would come in here. I would look to rework some of this unit here. So there I've clicked on animal, plants and cells, and I'm going to continue with this assignment. I'll go through the flow of the assignment in a moment. So this was the most recent or the most pressing piece of homework. However, if we click See All, this is really cool because it will show all upcoming homework. So nothing gets lost. So we can see exactly what that cycle is. But interestingly, we can also see past assignments. So that's not done and dusted. That pupil can still come back and access that coursework and look to better achieve a fuller understanding of the material that was presented to them. So at any point, pupil can look to come back and retry, be it the whole unit or individual sessions of that Elizabethan England coursework. As I move further down the page, this element here, we're dealing with young people who have a scale of engagement. Some will of course do it for the enrichment and the personal pride, but some learners of course do need a degree of gamification, linking that sort of social attribution and recognition. So what we have with every piece of coursework, you collect and obtain additional points and rewards as you make progress. So here we've got my global board, my memory palace. So if you think back to Sherlock Holmes, Benedict Cumberbatch, he would of course store all his clues and insights in his memory palace. So sort of taking that idea that we have a global memory palace. So each one of these tiles, one of these stickers, is related to a piece of learning that individual can revisit at any time. And there is, of course, myself included, love a competition. And so for each piece of coursework, any piece of learning that is completed, the pupil can sit within a global ranking. So it's not just within their cohort, their classroom, their year group, their school community, but it's a global Seneca community. So any learner who has been online, in this instance, the last 24 hours studying the AQA tutors topic, will be included in here. Currently ranked on correct questions, sessions completed, and total study time. So again, it's about building that engagement with learning, making sure that whether it's through the dual coding, the images in our content, the GIFs, the videos, the lecture videos that we have, it's all manifested to ensure that there is a pleasurable experience in this learning. So what does a unit actually look like? We saw it from a teacher perspective, just reviewing the course content. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to look at that identity and culture. Here we go. I'm going to revisit this. I had a score already, but I'm coming back to it, so I'm going to start my learning. So, mentioned the carousel. There's nothing else on screen, can't go any further. We're not looking to put any questions in front of them. It's an opportunity to explore that key vocabulary. So we go from the words to the context, using it in a sentence in French and translated. What you'll notice here, I've got this marker here says I've got a typing speed off. What would typically be presented to a new user is a dynamic representation of that text as if it's being typed up on screen. And that you can alter that so I can have a nice fast-paced typing. But often the question is, well, what about my EAL or my SCN pupil who might find that cognitive load distracting? That's why you can take that off, so that actually when the pupil comes to the page, that content is delivered immediately. It's also worth saying that we don't ascribe time constraints. They're not, it's not sort of fastest finger first. It's about working at their own pace through the content that is provided. So I'm going to continue. And here we go. My first question is actually a click the wrong word. So I'm going to say that one. I didn't think that fitted. So now I've made the identification within context. Now I need to say which is the correct word that should have been used. I'm now looking at a translation. So je m'appelle Charlotte. I am called Charlotte. I'm 20 years old and I have brown hair. And up at the top, you'll see this blue progress bar. That will, of course, give a visual indication as to how much more work the pupil has to complete before the end of the unit. But that will also vary depending on the answers that the pupil gives. If I write in here, okay, so let's have a look. My personality, my mood. Oh, nothing's happening there because I've got the wrong word in there. So I'm going to check that and look. So I've actually only got 1 of 4 correct. So as I continue, I will be represented with relevant content and relevant questioning. So I'm going to say here, hey, no, got that one wrong. And so become flawless, master your wrongs. So I'm going to look at the wrong answers. Now, this is where it would be a separate conversation for your school as to whether you look to unlock the premium features. As a premium user in this instance, I'd have been able to go through and look at exactly which those wrong answers were. So hopefully that's given an insight into the flow of questioning and the style of question structures that we provide to our pupils. I'm just going to come back for one last illustration within the teacher module. I'm just going to show you, we've completed an assignment. What does that look like for you as a teacher though? Here we go. I'm going to go to my assignments, and here are all the assignments that I've got upcoming. So I can keep tabs on how many children have been allocated that piece of work, but I'm going to go to past assignments. And I'm going to choose summer catch-up, differentiated homework. And this is where you're starting to compile actual rich insight into pupil progress. So what I have down here on the left-hand side, these are, of course, all my pupils. Don't worry that it's all fake data. We have a status, so whether they are working on that or not, whether it was on time or late, how long they spent on it, an average score. And then, as we can see from the drop down here, these are my best scores per pupil for each of these units. And by hovering over, you can see exactly which chapter of that content they were scoring against. Now, what we do say is we recommend that teachers prescribe that pupils really work as many times as possible through that unit to get as high a score as possible, ideally above 90%, which means you'll see multiple attempts. So what's really nice to see is you can have a look at the number of attempts. So we can see here that Yasmin took 10 attempts on that first unit versus her peer, Paula, who took 2 attempts. And we can then move from the number of attempts to that first attempt. So if we're looking at Yasmin, let's look, 10 attempts there. The first attempt was 68%. But if I then come in and look at the best score, Yasmin then continued to build on those gaps, those misunderstandings, to develop her confidence and competence with that course content to 90% threshold. Now, of course, all of this can be exported. I can click on the export button and it will drop straight out in a CSV format. So again, you can merge that with whole school data should you be required to report at a granular level. One final thing I will mention to you is that, of course, you may be having multiple classes. So I'm just going to look at how I can assign the same coursework to multiple classes. I'm choosing my topics. I'm going to assign those. And so these are all the pupils. Right, my apologies. I'm clearly in the wrong domain, because what you would be faced with is a drop down, so you can choose exactly which classes you wanted to assign that to. So you could assign it to multiple classes. In my preparation, I've clearly logged into the wrong account. Not to worry, the methodology and the understanding is there that you can create assignments and distribute them to multiple classes, and those classes can have different due dates as well. So you can really manage the distribution of work with the cadence of what you're doing within your school timetable. Now, I'm conscious that we've got 2 minutes remaining on my clock this afternoon. please do. I've not seen any questions yet. I can't believe at the end of my first week with Seneca, I've managed to answer absolutely everything for you. So do please drop your questions into the comment box. And as you do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, as promised, drop my email address into those comments for you, because as I say, I'd love to be able to continue this conversation on a one-to-one basis to really understand your use case within your school, find out where you might have friction with your current systems or homework or scheduling, to really identify how we can help take some of that friction, some of that teacher pain away by using Seneca. Do please use that email address. So thank you so much for joining me this Friday afternoon. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope you found value in what we've looked through and food for thought for next week, so that I can see you all logging in and creating classes and distributing exciting, dynamic and personalized learning for all of the pupils in your class, so that we can help you make progress. Thank you so much for this afternoon. I'm afraid there are no questions, but I'm taking that as a good sign. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekends, and all the very best of luck for the start of a new week on Monday. Thanks, guys. Bye.